Hello, and welcome to Boring Science to Sleep, a quiet place where science becomes slow, soft, and easy to drift through. Tonight, we're going to gently explore what happens when galaxies collide, not to learn every detail or memorize every scientific term, but simply to notice one of the universe's slowest and most beautiful transformations. Together, we'll wander among quiet rivers of stars, invisible oceans of gravity, and ancient galaxies that have been patiently reshaping one another for billions of years. Before you settle in, if you truly enjoy these calm journeys through the quieter side of science, you're always welcome to like this video and subscribe, but only if it feels right for you. And when you're ready, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. It's always a quiet joy to imagine listeners from different corners of our own small world drifting together beneath the same universe. Now, dim the lights if you can. Perhaps let a fan hum softly nearby, or simply enjoy the quiet sounds already surrounding you. Allow your shoulders to loosen. Let your breathing find its own gentle rhythm. And remember that there is nothing you need to solve tonight. Nothing to finish. Nothing to keep up with. You are safe. You have nowhere else to be. For the little while ahead, the universe can do all the moving, while you simply drift alongside it. Tonight, we won't be watching an explosion or racing through a dramatic adventure. Instead, we'll witness something much quieter. We will discover that even when entire galaxies meet one another, they rarely crash in the way we imagine. They greet each other slowly, patiently, almost gracefully, over stretches of time so vast that every chapter of human history would disappear before the encounter had barely begun. It is a story not about destruction, but about gentle transformation. A story where gravity acts with endless patience, where stars almost never touch, where invisible forces quietly guide countless worlds, and where every slow encounter leaves behind new patterns of light for future generations of stars. So, as your thoughts begin to grow softer, imagine yourself becoming lighter too. Imagine drifting far beyond our own night sky, beyond the moon, beyond the planets, beyond the familiar spiral of our own Milky Way. Ahead of you, stretching into every direction, lies an ocean so vast that words almost lose their meaning. Tiny islands of light float within it, each one carrying hundreds of billions of stars, each one quietly turning through an endless darkness that is far from empty. And somewhere among those distant islands, two galaxies have already begun a journey toward one another. Not today, not tomorrow, but over billions upon billions of peaceful years. You don't need to hurry after them. They have all the time in the universe. And tonight, so do you. Now, without noticing exactly when it happens, you find yourself floating quietly above a galaxy. There is no sound here. No rushing wind, no feeling of falling. Only a deep and comfortable stillness, as though space itself has decided to slow down with you. Beneath you, an immense spiral of soft light turns almost too slowly to notice. Its graceful arms curl around a bright center, like delicate brushstrokes painted across an endless canvas of darkness. If you were able to watch for only a few moments, it might seem perfectly still, but if you could remain here for millions of years, you would begin to notice that everything is quietly moving together. Nothing is frozen. Everything is simply patient. From this distance, the galaxy almost resembles a glowing seashell resting upon an invisible ocean. Its spiral arms appear smooth and continuous, flowing effortlessly around the center. Yet appearances can be wonderfully misleading. The glowing shape before you is not a solid object. It is not even close. Instead, It is an enormous gathering of countless individual stars, each following its own quiet journey through space. Between those stars lies an astonishing amount of emptiness, so much emptiness that it becomes difficult for the human mind to picture. You may have looked up at the night sky before and imagined the stars packed closely together like tiny lights hanging from a dark ceiling. But from here, the truth becomes softer and far more spacious. Every star has room to breathe. Every star has room to wander. The nearest neighboring stars are separated by distances so vast that if each one were represented by a tiny grain of sand resting on a beach, the next grain might be many long steps away. The galaxy shines brightly not because everything is crowded together, but because there are simply so many stars spread across an almost unimaginable space. It is less like a city filled with buildings, and more like countless tiny boats drifting across an endless, peaceful ocean. As you continue to drift, your eyes begin to notice that the stars are not all the same. Some glow with a gentle golden warmth, calm and steady. Others shine with a cooler white light. Some appear faint, while others seem almost impossibly brilliant. Many are surrounded by delicate clouds of dust and gas that shimmer so softly they almost disappear into the darkness itself. These vast clouds may seem empty at first glance, yet they quietly hold the ingredients from which future stars may one day awaken. For now, they simply drift, carried by slow currents that have been flowing for longer than our species has existed. You are in no hurry to understand every detail. There is nothing to memorize here, only gentle noticing. As your attention wanders, another quiet question begins to appear. If everything is so spread apart, if there is so much empty space, why does the galaxy stay together at all? Why don't all these stars simply drift away forever? The answer cannot be seen directly. There are no glowing ropes stretching from one star to another, no invisible walls, no giant shell surrounding this peaceful island of light. Instead, there is a quiet pull that never grows tired, a gentle invitation that every star has been following since long before our own sun was born. You cannot see this invisible pull, you cannot hear it, yet you can notice its work everywhere around you. Every graceful curve, every slow orbit, every winding spiral arm, every patient journey around the galaxy's bright heart. It is as though each star is listening to a silent melody that has never stopped playing. None of them rush, none of them resist. They simply continue their slow dance together, each one helping shape the quiet beauty of the whole. The longer you watch, the more the galaxy begins to resemble something alive. Not alive in the way forests are alive, not alive in the way oceans breathe against a shoreline, but alive through motion, alive through change, alive through an endless rhythm so gentle that even millions of years become little more than a single peaceful breath. Far beyond the bright spiral arms, where the last visible stars slowly fade into darkness, the galaxy does not truly end as sharply as your eyes might expect. Its visible light grows fainter. Its quiet influence continues much farther. Beyond the glowing edge lies an even larger unseen realm, one that patiently cradles the galaxy as a whole. You cannot see it tonight, only sense that the stars are being held by something larger than themselves, something we will slowly come to understand as our journey unfolds. For now, there is no need to reach for answers too quickly. It is enough simply to float here, to watch the stars turning together, to notice how peaceful something so unimaginably large can become. And perhaps, as your breathing grows slower and your thoughts become lighter, you begin to wonder whether this beautiful island of stars is truly alone, or whether, somewhere beyond the darkness, another quiet galaxy is already making its own slow journey across the universe, still far away, yet gently connected by forces too patient to ever hurry. As you continue drifting beside this immense spiral of stars, you begin to notice something curious. Nothing appears to be holding the galaxy together. There are no glowing threads stretched between the stars, no invisible walls surrounding them, no great shell wrapping gently around this island of light. And yet, despite all the empty space, despite the unimaginable distances between one star and the next, the galaxy remains remarkably calm. It turns slowly, almost gracefully, as though every star quietly understands where it belongs. Perhaps that is one of the universe's gentlest surprises. Some of its strongest forces cannot be seen at all. If you could remain here for millions of years, watching patiently, without ever looking away, you would notice that each star follows a familiar path. Some travel closer to the bright center, while others wander much farther away. But almost all continue their quiet journeys without drifting endlessly into the darkness beyond. It is as if every star is being invited to stay, not commanded, not trapped, simply encouraged by a silent pull that never becomes impatient. You have known this quiet pull all your life. It is the same gentle force that keeps your feet resting comfortably upon the earth. It is the reason rain falls toward the ground instead of drifting away into the sky. It is why the moon circles our planet and why our planet circles the sun. Here, among hundreds of billions of stars, that same quiet force is at work once again. Only now, its canvas is unimaginably larger. You might think of it as an invisible current flowing through the universe. Like a calm river whose water cannot be seen, it quietly guides everything resting within it. The stars do not need to know where to go. The current gently carries them. For generations, people imagined that the stars we could see must contain almost everything inside a galaxy. It seemed reasonable. After all, when you look at the night sky, the stars appear to be the story. But the universe has a gentle habit of reminding us that appearances are rarely complete. As telescopes became more powerful and observations became more careful, astronomers noticed something unexpected. The stars near the outer edges of galaxies were moving faster than anyone had expected. Not wildly, not chaotically, simply faster. According to what could be seen, those distant stars should have wandered away long ago, slowly escaping into the enormous darkness between galaxies. Yet they remained, still circling, still returning, still quietly following invisible paths. It was rather like watching leaves floating around a peaceful pond. If you knew only about the leaves, you might expect them to drift in one direction. But instead, they continue circling, as though an unseen current beneath the surface is gently guiding them. The leaves themselves are not mysterious. The hidden current is. So scientists began asking a remarkably humble question. What if we are only seeing a small part of what is really there? It was never a question asked with certainty. It was asked with curiosity. Slowly, carefully, observations from many different galaxies began pointing toward the same quiet possibility. Perhaps every galaxy is surrounded by something invisible, something that neither shines nor reflects light, something that does not glow like stars or shimmer like clouds of gas, yet something whose gentle pull can still be felt. Today, this unseen presence is often called dark matter. The name can sound mysterious, almost dramatic, but you do not need to imagine anything frightening. Tonight, it may help to think of it differently. Imagine standing on the shore of a calm sea before sunrise. The water is so still that it almost disappears into the darkness. You cannot clearly see where it ends or where it begins, yet you know it is there, because small boats rise and fall upon its quiet surface. The boats reveal the ocean. In much the same way, the stars reveal this invisible presence. They quietly trace its shape with every orbit they complete. The galaxy you have been admiring is not simply a collection of glowing stars. It rests within an enormous invisible ocean, one that stretches far beyond the last visible spiral arm. The bright stars are only the part your eyes can easily notice. The unseen ocean surrounding them is much larger. If someone could gently lift away every star, every cloud of dust, every glowing nebula, that invisible ocean would still remain, silently extending into the darkness. It is difficult to picture something that cannot be seen. That is perfectly all right. The universe has never insisted that everything be visible. Some things quietly introduce themselves through their influence instead. You have experienced this many times before. You cannot see the wind itself. You notice leaves moving. You cannot see music. You notice a room becoming filled with sound. You cannot see warmth. You notice your hands becoming comfortable beside a fire. In the same quiet way, astronomers cannot simply point a telescope toward dark matter and watch it glow. Instead, they watch galaxies move. They watch clusters of galaxies gently circling one another. They watch light bending ever so slightly as it travels across the universe. Again and again, the invisible quietly reveals itself through everything around it. As you continue floating beside this peaceful galaxy, another thought slowly begins to settle into your mind. If every galaxy is resting inside its own vast invisible ocean, then perhaps these oceans are much larger than the bright islands of stars they hold. Perhaps long before two galaxies appear close enough for their stars to notice one another, their invisible surroundings have already begun to meet. Long before the first spiral arms stretch, long before clouds of gas gently gather, long before any beautiful ribbons of stars appear across the darkness, the unseen reaches out first. Its quiet influence extends far beyond the light, and perhaps that is why the universe is so patient. Its greatest conversations begin long before anyone can see them. For now, there is no need to imagine two galaxies colliding. It is enough simply to picture two vast invisible oceans drifting slowly through the stillness of space, their gentle currents beginning to overlap, almost imperceptibly, as though greeting one another from an extraordinary distance. The stars have not yet arrived, but something even quieter already has. By now, the galaxy beneath you has begun to feel almost familiar. Its graceful spiral arms turn with quiet confidence, each star following a path that has unfolded over unimaginable stretches of time. The invisible ocean surrounding it feels less mysterious than it did before. Although you cannot see it directly, you can almost sense its gentle presence, quietly embracing every glowing star. For a little while, it might seem as though this magnificent island of light exists entirely on its own, floating peacefully, untouched, complete. But the universe has a habit of reminding us that even its quietest places are part of something much larger. If you slowly drift farther away, leaving behind the bright spiral beneath you, the galaxy begins to shrink. At first, it still dominates your view, its glowing arms stretching proudly across the darkness. Then it becomes smaller, no larger than a luminous flower floating upon an endless black sea. You continue drifting, patiently, without hurry. Soon, another faint glow appears in the distance. Then another, and another. One by one, Tiny islands of light begin to emerge from the darkness, scattered so widely apart that enormous oceans of empty space rest between them. None seem crowded, none seem rushed. Each quietly follows its own journey. From this greater distance, you begin to notice something surprisingly comforting. Galaxies, much like stars, rarely travel completely alone. Some gather in small families. Others belong to much larger communities, where dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of galaxies quietly share the same region of space. They are not packed tightly together. Instead, they are separated by distances almost impossible to imagine, yet still connected by the same gentle pull that has guided everything since the universe was young. It is easy to think of the universe as endless emptiness, and in many ways it truly is. Yet within that vastness, gravity has spent billions of years patiently bringing neighbors together. Not quickly, never forcefully, simply, steadily. If you could watch the universe as though it were a slow-motion river, you would see galaxies drifting along currents so gradual that entire civilizations could rise and disappear without noticing any change at all. Nothing races, everything unfolds. Scientists have spent many decades creating detailed maps of where galaxies live throughout the observable universe. At first, they expected to find something almost random, as though galaxies had simply been sprinkled across space like grains of sand scattered by the wind. Instead, a far more beautiful picture slowly appeared. Galaxies were not scattered randomly. They formed patterns. Great strands stretched across unimaginable distances. At the places where these strands crossed, enormous gatherings of galaxies quietly accumulated. Between them lay vast regions where very few galaxies lived at all. The pattern looked strangely familiar. Some people saw the delicate threads of a spider's web glistening in the morning light. Others imagined the branching roots of an ancient tree spreading silently beneath a forest floor. Still others thought of rivers slowly joining one another across an immense landscape. No single comparison is perfect, but each captures a little of the same quiet truth. The universe is connected. Tonight, perhaps the gentlest image is to imagine countless slow rivers flowing across a peaceful plain. You cannot always see the water itself. Instead, you notice the tiny boats drifting upon it. The boats reveal the currents. The galaxies reveal the greater structure that quietly guides them. This vast arrangement has become known as the cosmic web. The name sounds grand, yet there is no need to picture enormous glowing threads stretching dramatically across space. Instead, imagine invisible pathways that have been gently shaping the journeys of galaxies since nearly the beginning of time. Every galaxy you have seen has been traveling along one of these quiet paths. Not because it was given instructions, not because it chose a destination, simply because gravity has been patiently guiding its motion for billions of years. Long before our own sun existed, long before Earth formed, long before the first oceans covered our planet, these slow journeys were already underway. As you drift through this immense landscape, another gentle realization begins to settle. If galaxies are quietly traveling along these invisible pathways, then some of those pathways must eventually cross. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. Imagine two tiny leaves floating upon separate branches of a slow-moving river. For a long time, each follows its own gentle course. The distance between them barely changes. Then, almost too slowly to notice, the currents begin bending. The leaves drift a little closer. Days pass, then weeks, perhaps months. Neither leaf intends to meet the other. The river simply carries them. Galaxies experience something remarkably similar, although their journey is measured not in days or seasons, but in billions upon billions of years. Gravity is extraordinarily patient. It never grows tired. It never rushes its work. It simply continues its quiet invitation, moment after moment, century after century, age after age. The universe itself has changed greatly during this long passage of time. Billions of years ago, galaxies lived closer together than they do today. The young universe was smaller, denser, and far more crowded. Gentle meetings between neighboring galaxies happened more often, slowly building larger galaxies from many smaller ones. Even now, that quiet process has not completely ended. It has simply become slower. The universe has continued expanding, carrying distant galaxies farther apart, like tiny boats gradually drifting away across an ever-widening sea. Many galaxies will never meet again. The space between them grows a little larger every moment, yet galaxies that are already close neighbors remain quietly connected by gravity's patient embrace. Some are still moving toward one another. Some have already begun their slow approach. Some have been traveling together for billions of years, without either one realizing that their destinies have become gently intertwined. Among those neighbors are two galaxies that may already feel familiar: our own Milky Way, and a beautiful spiral galaxy known as Andromeda. Tonight, they still appear peacefully separated by an enormous gulf of darkness. Their stars remain wonderfully far apart. Their glowing arms have not yet reached one another. To our eyes, they seem almost perfectly still. Yet appearances, once again, tell only part of the story. Very quietly, very patiently, they are already moving together, not racing, not falling, simply following the same invisible invitation that has guided galaxies since the earliest chapters of the universe. The meeting itself remains unimaginably far away. There is no reason to hurry toward it. For now, it is enough simply to notice that every great encounter begins in almost complete silence. Long before the first stars draw near, long before beautiful ribbons of light stretch across the darkness, long before entire galaxies slowly become one, the journey has already begun. The two galaxies remain separated by a darkness so immense that it is difficult to believe they are moving toward one another at all. If you were to watch them for only a single night, you would notice nothing. If you watched for 1,000 years, they would still appear almost perfectly still. Even after the rise and fall of entire civilizations, their graceful shapes would seem unchanged. Only when time is allowed to unfold over millions of years does the quiet story begin to reveal itself. This is one of the universe's favorite ways of working. Its greatest changes often happen so slowly that they resemble stillness. You drift between the two galaxies, suspended in the vast silence that separates them. One spiral glows softly behind you. Another shines gently ahead. Both are beautiful. Both seem complete. Both carry hundreds of billions of stars, each following its own peaceful journey. There is no feeling of danger here, no roaring impact waiting just ahead, no countdown toward disaster. Instead, there is only patience. The galaxies are not rushing toward one another. They are simply answering the same quiet invitation that gravity has been whispering for billions of years. Long before the stars begin to notice one another, something larger has already begun to change. You may remember the invisible oceans surrounding each galaxy, stretching far beyond the last visible stars. These unseen regions quietly extend into the darkness, much farther than your eyes can easily follow. As the galaxies drift closer, those invisible oceans are the first to meet, not with a crash, not even with a touch in the ordinary sense. Their gentle influences begin to overlap, like two calm tides slowly blending along a peaceful shoreline. Nothing dramatic announces the moment. No flash of light appears. No great sound echoes across space. The conversation begins almost silently. It is as though two gentle breezes meet high above an open field. Neither can be seen directly. Yet together, they begin to change the path of every drifting seed beneath them. The stars still remain astonishingly far apart. Most are completely unaware that anything has begun. They continue circling the centers of their own galaxies, rising and falling through invisible currents that have guided them since long before Earth existed. And yet, very gradually, those currents begin to change. The quiet pull surrounding each galaxy becomes just a little more complicated. Every star still follows gravity, only now, gravity is telling a slightly different story. Imagine two graceful dancers standing at opposite ends of an enormous ballroom. They begin walking toward one another so slowly that neither appears to move. As they come closer, each begins responding to the other's presence. A tiny adjustment, a subtle turn, a gentle shift in rhythm. Neither dancer loses balance. Neither suddenly leaps across the room. Instead, each movement quietly encourages another. The dance begins long before their hands ever meet. Galaxies behave in much the same way. Their first encounter is not defined by contact. It is defined by influence. As millions of years continue passing beneath you, the elegant spiral arms no longer remain perfectly symmetrical. The outer edges begin stretching almost imperceptibly. Stars that once followed nearly circular paths discover that those paths have become ever so slightly longer. Some drift outward, others curve inward. Everything remains beautifully ordered, yet nothing is exactly the same as it was before. Gravity has begun rewriting the choreography. If you did not know what to look for, you might not notice anything unusual. The galaxy is still unmistakably a galaxy. Its brilliant center still glows. Its spiral arms still sweep through the darkness like delicate brushstrokes. Yet hidden within those familiar shapes, countless tiny adjustments are taking place. Each one is almost invisible on its own. Together, they slowly reshape an entire universe of stars. One of the most remarkable things about this quiet encounter is that the stars themselves remain wonderfully safe. The enormous emptiness between them has not disappeared. Every star still has room to wander. Even as the galaxies begin passing through one another over the ages ahead, direct collisions between stars remain extraordinarily unlikely. The true story is not about stars striking one another. It is about gravity gently changing where those stars choose to travel. Perhaps choose is not quite the right word. The stars are not making decisions. They are responding, listening, in their own silent way, to gravity's endlessly patient melody. As you watch, another beautiful difference begins to reveal itself. The stars move almost effortlessly through the encounter. The great clouds of gas, drifting between them, do not. Unlike stars, these enormous clouds are spread across vast regions of space. They are soft rather than compact, gentle rather than concentrated. As the galaxies continue approaching, some of these clouds begin meeting one another. At first, the changes are subtle. Two wisps of gas drift together. A quiet current becomes slightly denser. A delicate cloud slowly folds into another. Nothing explodes. Nothing rushes. Instead, enormous regions of gas begin gathering, almost like morning mist, settling into a peaceful valley before sunrise. Those quiet gatherings will become increasingly important. Not because they bring destruction, but because they quietly prepare the birthplace of future light. For now, however, Those future stars remain asleep. The clouds are only beginning to gather. The galaxies are only beginning their dance. You notice something comforting about the entire scene. Nothing in the universe seems eager. Gravity never hurries. The galaxies never panic. Even change itself appears calm. Perhaps that is why this story feels so different from the collisions we experience on Earth. Here, a collision is not an instant. It is a relationship. It unfolds over stretches of time so immense that every mountain on Earth could rise, slowly wear away, and disappear again before these two galaxies complete even a single graceful embrace. As the distance between them continues shrinking, almost beyond perception, the invisible currents surrounding both galaxies become increasingly intertwined. The stars continue their patient journeys. The clouds quietly gather. The great dance grows ever so slightly more intricate, and somewhere within those slowly thickening rivers of gas, the first gentle hints of countless future stars are beginning to wait for their moment, still hidden within the darkness, still carrying their light in silence. By now, the two galaxies have drawn closer than they have ever been before. Their graceful spiral arms have begun to stretch ever so slightly, as though responding to an invisible tide that neither one can resist. The quiet currents surrounding them continue to overlap, gently reshaping countless paths without a single hurried movement. From where you are drifting, the encounter appears almost dreamlike. Two enormous islands of light slowly approaching. Two silent oceans gradually becoming one. And yet, somewhere deep inside your imagination, a familiar question may begin to appear. If entire galaxies are moving toward one another, won't countless stars collide? It feels like a perfectly reasonable thought. After all, here on Earth, when two large things meet, we expect impacts. Cars collide, waves crash, mountains crumble. Even tiny drops of rain eventually meet one another as they gather into rivers. Our everyday experiences quietly teach us that when objects move toward the same place, contact is almost unavoidable. The universe, however, often prefers gentler stories. To understand why, there is no need for complicated mathematics. Instead, imagine something much simpler. Picture yourself standing alone on an enormous beach. The shoreline stretches far beyond the horizon in every direction. The sand is smooth and undisturbed. Now imagine placing a single seashell somewhere upon that vast beach. Then, after walking for a very long distance, you place another, then another, and another. Soon there are thousands of beautiful shells scattered across the sand. From high above, someone might describe the beach as being covered with shells. Yet if you were standing among them, you would mostly notice empty sand. You could walk for a very long time without ever touching another shell. Galaxies are rather like that. From far away, they glow as bright, continuous spirals of light. But when you move inside them, you discover that almost everything is empty space. The stars are astonishingly far apart. Each one has an immense amount of room around it. That simple truth changes everything. Even though a galaxy may contain hundreds of billions of stars, the distances between neighboring stars are so enormous that direct collisions become extraordinarily unlikely. It is rather like two enormous clouds of tiny glowing fireflies drifting through one another on a warm summer evening. From a distance, the clouds appear full, but each firefly has so much room to wander that almost none ever meet. The clouds overlap. The fireflies continue flying. The same gentle idea unfolds among the stars. As the galaxies slowly pass through one another, nearly every star simply continues its own quiet journey. Some drift a little higher, Some curve gently inward. Some eventually find themselves traveling along entirely new paths, but almost all remain wonderfully untouched. Our own sun would almost certainly experience something very similar. If the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy slowly merge billions of years from now, the sun is extraordinarily unlikely to strike another star. Instead, it would quietly continue its long journey, perhaps following a different orbit around the newly formed galaxy, but still carrying its family of planets through the darkness. There is something deeply comforting about that thought. Even during one of the largest transformations the universe can offer, individual stars are given room to continue existing. The galaxies themselves change. The stars mostly endure. You continue floating between these patient giants, watching their countless suns glide past one another, like tiny lanterns drifting across an endless lake at night. Each lantern follows its own path. Each reflects softly upon invisible waters. Together they create the appearance of great movement, while individually remaining calm and unhurried. As millions of years quietly pass beneath you, another realization begins to emerge. The galaxies are not behaving like solid objects at all. They are behaving more like gentle swarms. Imagine two great flocks of birds crossing the same valley. From far away, each flock appears almost solid, like a moving cloud. But as they pass through one another, every bird simply adjusts its own path ever so slightly. The flock changes shape. The individual birds remain safe. Galaxies do something remarkably similar. Their overall appearance slowly transforms. Their stars continue flying through the immense openness that has always surrounded them. Gravity quietly guides each tiny adjustment. Nothing needs to rush. Nothing needs to force its way forward. Every change arrives through countless gentle influences, accumulating over unimaginable spans of time. As you watch more carefully, you notice that some stars begin following wider paths than before. Others gradually drift toward the center of the encounter. A few may even find themselves gently pulled into the neighboring galaxy, becoming new residents without ever experiencing anything resembling a collision. It is almost as though the galaxies are exchanging travelers rather than trading blows. Stars that once belonged to one great island of light slowly become part of another. Not through violence, through patience. The encounter begins to resemble two neighboring forests whose leaves are quietly carried across the same valley by an autumn breeze. The forests change. The leaves continue drifting. Yet there is one important difference between stars and another quiet resident of every galaxy. The enormous clouds of gas that drift among the stars are very different from the stars themselves. Stars are compact, dense, small compared with the vast distances separating them. Clouds of gas are something else entirely. They spread across enormous regions of space. They are delicate, soft, almost like morning fog stretching across an entire countryside. When two banks of fog slowly drift together, they do not pass effortlessly through one another. They mingle, they gather, they become thicker. The same gentle process begins unfolding here. While the stars quietly continue their separate journeys, the immense clouds of gas gradually meet. They fold together. They slow one another ever so slightly. The quiet gathering you noticed earlier becomes easier to see. Here and there, the great clouds begin growing denser. Not suddenly, not dramatically, patiently, almost tenderly. Within those slowly gathering clouds, the conditions for new stars are quietly beginning to appear. It is a remarkable contrast. The oldest stars calmly survive. The youngest stars have not yet been born. Between them lies a peaceful season of gathering, where invisible currents slowly prepare the next generation of light. Perhaps this is one of the gentlest lessons the universe offers. The greatest changes are not always produced by direct impact. Sometimes they emerge because countless small influences quietly accumulate. A gentle pull repeated over billions of years, a slow gathering of drifting clouds, a peaceful adjustment of familiar paths. Transformation does not always arrive with noise. Often, it arrives with extraordinary patience, and as the two galaxies continue their graceful passage through one another, the quiet clouds between their stars become just a little denser, holding within them the promise of countless new suns that have not yet opened their eyes to the universe. The two galaxies continue their quiet passage through one another. There is still no violent crash, no sudden explosion, no great wall of stars colliding across the darkness. Instead, the universe remains astonishingly calm. Around you, countless familiar stars continue following their patient journeys, gliding through space, much as they always have. They drift along graceful paths, quietly responding to gravity's endless invitation, each one carrying its own long history through the encounter. Yet between those stars, something different is happening. Earlier, you noticed immense clouds of gas, gathering almost imperceptibly. Now, as millions of years continue slipping quietly past, those gentle gatherings become a little easier to see. These clouds are unlike the stars surrounding them. A star is compact. Its light comes from a small, brilliant sphere. A cloud of gas is something far more delicate. It stretches across enormous distances, almost like a thin veil floating through space. If you could somehow drift inside one of these clouds, you might not even realize you were there at first. The gas is incredibly thin, far thinner than any air you have ever breathed. Its particles are separated by wide stretches of emptiness, quietly wandering through the darkness. And yet, over regions so unimaginably large, even this faint material becomes enough for gravity to begin its patient work. Imagine two gentle banks of morning mist, slowly rolling across a peaceful valley. Neither moves quickly. Neither makes a sound. As they meet, they do not bounce apart. They quietly mingle. Layer upon layer, the mist grows a little thicker. The valley remains calm. Only its appearance slowly changes. Something remarkably similar begins unfolding here. As the galaxies continue their slow embrace, countless drifting clouds gradually flow into one another. Not because they are rushing, not because they are being forced, simply because gravity keeps guiding them toward the same quiet places. Some clouds gently slow each other down. Others fold together like soft fabric settling upon itself. Tiny ripples spread through them, so slowly that even millions of years feel almost peaceful. The stars glide past with little interruption. The clouds linger. They gather. They become just a little denser than they were before. Gravity has an unusual gift. It never demands immediate change. Instead, it quietly rewards patience. The slightly denser parts of a cloud begin attracting a little more gas. That extra gas creates an even denser region, which quietly attracts still more. The process repeats again and again, never hurrying, never stopping. It is rather like watching a snowball rolling very slowly down a gentle hill. At first, almost nothing seems different. Then, little by little, it quietly grows. Or perhaps it is like watching drops of dew forming upon blades of grass before sunrise. No single drop appears all at once. Each gathers almost invisibly, until one peaceful morning, you simply notice that it is there. The universe often prefers this kind of transformation. Not sudden, not dramatic, simply steady. Within some of these growing clouds, Gravity eventually gathers enough material into one place that something extraordinary begins to happen. The cloud slowly folds inward. Its center becomes warmer, not because fire has appeared, not because anything has exploded, but because the gentle gathering itself quietly creates warmth. The cloud is becoming smaller, denser, closer together, and as it continues settling inward, its hidden warmth slowly grows. For an unimaginably long time, this quiet transformation remains invisible. If you were drifting nearby, you would see only a dark cloud floating peacefully through space. Inside, however, a new story has already begun. It is almost like a seed resting beneath the soil of a quiet forest. From above, nothing seems to change. The forest remains still. The ground remains undisturbed. Yet beneath the surface, life is patiently preparing itself. A future tree is already beginning its journey. The universe plants its stars in much the same gentle way. Every newborn star begins as a quiet promise, hidden inside an ordinary cloud. Eventually, after countless ages of patient gathering, the center of that cloud becomes warm enough, dense enough, and peaceful enough for a tiny new light to awaken. Not with violence, not with celebration, simply with quiet persistence. One star, then another, then another. Across the colliding galaxies, countless small lights begin appearing within the great drifting clouds. From a distance, the galaxies seem sprinkled with fresh starlight, almost as though someone has gently scattered tiny diamonds across their spiral arms. Astronomers sometimes describe this period as a season of intense star formation. Tonight, perhaps it feels more comforting to imagine it as spring arriving after an impossibly long winter. The landscape has not changed overnight. The flowers have not appeared all at once. Instead, quiet life has simply found the right moment to emerge. The galaxies have not become places of destruction. They have become gardens. The oldest stars continue their ancient journeys overhead. Beneath them, entirely new generations slowly open their eyes for the very first time. Some of these newborn stars shine with a soft golden light. Others are brighter, hotter. Their pale blue glow quietly illuminates the surrounding clouds, making the dark valleys of gas shimmer with delicate color. The galaxies seem almost younger than before, not because they have forgotten their age, but because they have welcomed new light into an ancient home. As you drift through these glowing nurseries, another comforting realization begins to settle within you. Nothing here has been wasted. The gentle encounter between the galaxies did not erase what already existed. Instead, it quietly created opportunities for something new. The oldest stars survived. The drifting clouds gathered. Fresh stars awakened. Gravity never hurried any of it. It simply remained patient, allowing each small change to encourage the next. Perhaps that is why galaxy collisions are so different from the collisions we imagine in everyday life. Here, a meeting is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of another. Every quiet gathering becomes the possibility of future light. Every patient transformation leaves behind new beauty that did not exist before. And as the two galaxies continue their graceful dance through the darkness, more and more gentle clouds begin glowing from within, until the once familiar spirals seem filled with tiny new suns, each one carrying the promise of worlds that have not yet been imagined. The great clouds continue gathering. Around you, the two galaxies remain locked in their patient embrace, neither one rushing, neither one resisting. Their stars still glide safely through one another, following graceful paths that have changed only by the smallest of degrees. The universe remains as calm as ever. And yet, almost everywhere you look, something new is beginning. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly enough that, if you were not paying close attention, you might think nothing had changed at all. The clouds you visited only a little while ago have continued their slow transformation. What were once broad, faint veils of drifting gas have become places where gravity has patiently gathered material together over millions of years. Some regions remain dark and peaceful. Others begin to glow with the faintest hint of warmth. Still others quietly hide a secret that has not yet revealed itself. It is rather like walking through a forest before dawn. Most trees remain wrapped in darkness. A few distant branches begin catching the first gentle light of morning. You cannot yet see the sun, but you already know that morning has begun. The galaxies feel much the same. Their newest stars have not transformed everything overnight. Instead, tiny points of fresh light begin appearing here and there, almost shyly, as though the universe is waking one small corner at a time. If you could watch this transformation over hundreds of millions of years, the change would become unmistakable. One quiet nursery of stars would awaken, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. Across the galaxies, great clouds that once drifted silently through the darkness would slowly bloom with new light. Astronomers sometimes describe this remarkable period as a starburst. The word itself can sound energetic, almost explosive. Tonight, however, it helps to imagine something much gentler. Not an explosion, but a springtime, a brief season when countless stars awaken together. After an impossibly long winter, valleys slowly fill with flowers. Not every flower opens at the same moment. Some bloom earlier, others wait patiently. Yet before long, the landscape is transformed. Galaxy collisions create something remarkably similar. Gravity does not command the stars to appear. It simply creates the quiet conditions that allow many of them to be born within the same chapter of cosmic history. As you drift closer to one of these stellar nurseries, the darkness around you begins to soften. The enormous cloud that once appeared almost invisible now glows with delicate shades of pale blue, soft silver, and gentle violet. Freshly awakened stars quietly illuminate the mist that still surrounds them, turning what was once hidden into something almost dreamlike. The light is beautiful, but it is also very young. Many of these newborn stars shine with an especially bright blue color. Not because blue is somehow more powerful than every other color, simply because these young stars are remarkably warm and brilliantly luminous during the earliest part of their long lives. They are the bright morning lights of the galaxy, energetic, radiant, full of possibility. Yet even here, nothing feels hurried. The stars themselves are born over immense stretches of time. Entire generations gradually emerge, while older generations continue their own patient journeys nearby. The galaxy becomes a place where many different ages quietly exist together. Some stars have already been shining for billions of years. Others have only just opened their eyes to the universe. Somewhere in between are countless others, each following its own peaceful rhythm. It begins to resemble a vast forest once again. There are towering ancient trees whose roots have reached deep into the earth. There are younger trees stretching toward the sky. There are tiny saplings quietly appearing beneath their shade. The forest is never entirely old. It is never entirely young. It simply continues growing. Galaxies do the same. You may remember that. Only a short while ago, these two galaxies seemed destined for collision. Perhaps the word itself brought images of destruction. Broken stars, violent impacts, endless chaos. Yet the closer you have come, the more surprising the truth has become. The galaxies have not become graveyards, they have become gardens. Everywhere you look, gravity has quietly transformed gentle gatherings of gas into places where new light can emerge. It has taken patience beyond imagination. Nothing happened quickly enough to frighten the stars. Nothing happened suddenly enough to disturb the quiet beauty surrounding you. Even the youngest stars seem to arrive with remarkable gentleness. As more of them awaken, the appearance of the galaxies slowly changes. Regions that once looked dim begin glowing more brightly. Great ribbons of soft blue light spread through the spiral arms. The ancient galaxies seem almost refreshed, not because they have forgotten their immense age, but because they have welcomed new generations into their timeless homes. Perhaps this is one of the most comforting ideas hidden within the universe. Creation and change are not opposites. Often, they are simply different names for the same quiet process. Gravity gently gathers. Clouds slowly settle. New stars quietly awaken. Nothing has been rushed. Nothing has been wasted. Even the oldest stars continue traveling peacefully above these glowing nurseries, watching, in their own silent way, as entirely new lights join the family they have belonged to for billions of years. If you remain here just a little longer, another gentle thought begins to form. These bright young stars will not remain young forever. Their light, however beautiful tonight, is only the beginning of a much longer story. One day, after journeys almost beyond imagination, some of them will quietly return their material to the universe, offering gifts to clouds that have not yet even formed. Those future clouds will someday awaken new stars of their own, and perhaps, around some of those distant stars, quiet worlds will slowly appear, worlds made from ancient starlight, worlds carrying the memories of galaxies that once met in perfect silence. The youngest stars now shine gently across the merging galaxies. Their soft blue light drifts through great clouds of glowing mist, illuminating places that had rested in darkness for countless ages. Around them, older stars continue their quiet journeys, neither jealous nor hurried, simply sharing the same vast home beneath gravity's endless care. For a little while, everything feels wonderfully balanced. Ancient stars, newborn stars, silent clouds still waiting for their own moment to awaken. It would be comforting to imagine that every star remains exactly as it is forever, but the universe has never stood still. Even the brightest lights slowly change. Just as forests welcome young trees while older ones quietly grow taller, stars also experience seasons of their own. Some spend unimaginably long ages shining with gentle steadiness, while others seem to live much faster, pouring out their light with remarkable generosity before their long journey begins to draw toward another chapter. You might think of a campfire on a quiet evening. Some pieces of wood burn slowly through the night, glowing with calm warmth hour after hour. Others burn brightly for a shorter time, filling the air with light before gently settling into glowing embers. Neither is hurried, neither is wasted. Each simply follows its own rhythm. Among the countless stars surrounding you are some that choose, in a sense, the brighter path. They are born with tremendous amounts of material gathered deep inside them, allowing them to shine with extraordinary brilliance. Their lives, though still unimaginably long by human standards, pass more quickly than those of quieter, smaller stars. For millions of years, they illuminate the surrounding clouds with magnificent light. They help warm nearby regions of space. They become brilliant landmarks within their galaxies. Eventually, however, even these radiant giants reach a moment when they can no longer continue in quite the same way. The change does not happen because they have failed. It happens because they have completed one beautiful chapter of their existence. For an extraordinarily brief moment in the life of the universe, some of these great stars release their outer layers back into the surrounding darkness. Astronomers call these events supernovae. The word itself may sound dramatic, but tonight there is no need to imagine violence or fear. Instead, imagine an old tree standing quietly in an ancient forest. Each autumn, it releases thousands of leaves that gently settle upon the ground below. Those leaves do not disappear without purpose. They slowly become part of the forest once again. They nourish the soil. They prepare the way for future seasons. The universe follows a surprisingly similar rhythm. The oldest stars quietly return much of their material to the great clouds drifting between the stars. Those clouds become richer than before. Not simply larger, richer. Within them now rest countless tiny ingredients that did not exist during the earliest chapters of the universe. Over countless generations of stars, the universe has slowly learned to create carbon, oxygen, iron, and many other elements that would one day become part of entirely new worlds. There is something wonderfully patient about this process. The universe does not create everything at once. It builds slowly, generation after generation, star after star, each quietly adding another gift to the great collection. Imagine a family carefully passing treasured books from one generation to the next. Each person adds a few notes, perhaps a pressed flower, perhaps a carefully written letter. The collection slowly grows richer, not because any one person created everything, but because many generations quietly contributed. Stars do something remarkably similar. Each generation leaves something behind for the next. As you drift through these glowing regions of the galaxies, you begin noticing that the great clouds surrounding the newborn stars no longer contain only simple gas. They now carry the quiet gifts of much older stars, invisible ingredients, patiently mixed into the drifting mist. One day, those enriched clouds will begin gathering once again. Gravity will continue its gentle work. Fresh stars will awaken. Around some of those stars, tiny grains of dust will slowly begin clinging together. Not because anyone tells them to, simply because the same patient forces continue encouraging small things to become larger ones. Dust becomes pebbles. Pebbles quietly become larger rocky worlds. Ice gathers in colder places. Great planets slowly emerge. None of it happens quickly. None of it is rushed. Everything grows through the same quiet patience that has guided galaxies from the beginning. You may begin to recognize a familiar pattern. Clouds become stars. Stars quietly return their material. Those gifts enrich new clouds. New clouds become new stars. Around those stars, new worlds gradually appear. The universe is not repeating itself. It is gently building upon its own memories. Perhaps that is one of the reasons galaxy collisions are so quietly beautiful. They do not merely create more stars. They create more opportunities, more places where future worlds may someday exist, more chances for entirely new stories to unfold. As the merging galaxies continue their slow dance, countless newborn stars illuminate clouds already carrying the quiet gifts of ancient generations. The oldest and the youngest become partners in the same endless conversation. Neither exists entirely without the other. One gently prepares the path, the other quietly continues it. And then, almost without noticing, another thought begins to settle softly into your mind. Every breath you have ever taken, every drop of water you have ever touched, every stone beneath your feet, every tree, every living creature, contains tiny pieces of stars that lived unimaginably long before our own sun was born. The carbon within your body, the oxygen carried with every peaceful breath, the iron that quietly helps your blood carry life through you. All of these began their journey inside ancient stars that patiently returned their gifts to the universe. Those stars may have belonged to galaxies that no longer exist in the form they once knew. Some may have lived through gentle mergers like the one unfolding around you now. Their light faded long ago. Their gifts remained. Perhaps that is one of the quietest comforts the universe offers. Nothing truly meaningful is ever hurried away. Light becomes memory. Memory becomes possibility. Possibility becomes new light once again. And somewhere within the glowing clouds surrounding these ancient galaxies, the ingredients for worlds that have never existed are already drifting patiently together, waiting for gravity's gentle invitation to begin another beautiful story. As the galaxies continue their slow embrace, the youngest stars shine softly among the older generations, filling quiet clouds with fresh light. New beginnings now exist beside ancient travelers, and for a while, it almost seems as though the story has reached a peaceful balance. But gravity has one more gift to reveal. Not all of its work is hidden inside glowing clouds. Some of its most beautiful creations stretch across the darkness itself. You continue drifting farther away, allowing your view to widen once again. Little by little, the two galaxies no longer appear as separate spirals. Instead, they begin to resemble two graceful dancers whose flowing robes have become gently intertwined. Their familiar shapes are changing, not disappearing, simply becoming something new. The first thing you notice is a long ribbon of starlight extending away from one galaxy. It is astonishingly delicate. A narrow stream of countless stars, stretching far beyond the spiral arms that once defined the galaxy's edge. It looks almost like silk being slowly drawn through still water. Nothing about it suggests violence. Instead, it carries the quiet elegance of something gently unfolding. Gravity has carefully lifted these stars from their previous paths, encouraging them to wander outward together. Not because they were thrown away, not because they escaped, simply because their long journeys have been quietly rewritten. Soon you notice another ribbon, extending in a different direction. Then another. Some are broad and luminous. Others are faint enough that they seem to dissolve into the surrounding darkness. Together they form graceful arches that reach across unimaginable distances. Astronomers often give these structures names. Some are called tidal tails, long streams of stars gently pulled outward during a galactic encounter. Others become stellar streams, delicate rivers of wandering stars that continue drifting through space long after the galaxies themselves have changed. Tonight, there is no need to remember those names. It is enough simply to see them as long rivers of starlight, quiet pathways that reveal where countless stars have gently traveled. As you continue observing, another remarkable structure slowly appears. Between the two galaxies stretches a faint bridge of light. Not a bridge built from stone or steel, a bridge woven from stars and drifting clouds. It is almost as though the galaxies are reaching toward one another with quiet hands, connected by a luminous pathway that did not exist before their meeting began. Nothing in the bridge is permanent. Every star continues moving. Every cloud continues drifting. Yet together they create the beautiful illusion of connection. It is one of the universe's quietest works of art. Farther away, faint curved ripples begin appearing around the growing galaxy. Some resemble the gentle rings left behind when a pebble quietly touches the surface of a still lake. Others appear like the soft folds of fabric illuminated by distant moonlight. These delicate arcs formed over immense stretches of time as stars slowly settled into new paths after the encounter. They are so faint that only the most careful observations reveal them. Yet once you notice them, they seem almost impossible to forget. Every graceful curve tells part of the same story. Gravity has been here. Time has passed. The galaxy has changed. If someone had arrived only after the collision was complete, they might never have witnessed the galaxy's meeting. The quiet dance would already be over. The newborn stars would continue shining. The galaxies would have settled into new forms. At first glance, everything might appear peaceful once again. And yet, the memories would still remain, hidden within those rivers of stars, written into those delicate bridges, folded gently into those faint glowing ripples. This is one of the reasons astronomers spend so much time studying these beautiful structures, not simply because they are beautiful, but because they remember. Imagine walking through an ancient forest after a heavy snowfall. The animals are gone. The morning is silent, yet delicate footprints remain upon the snow. By following those quiet trails, you can begin imagining where each creature wandered during the night. The forest tells its story without speaking. Galaxies do something remarkably similar. Their memories are not written with words. They are written with light. Every long river of stars quietly tells astronomers that gravity once reached gently outward. Every bridge hints that two galaxies passed close enough to exchange countless travelers. Every faint ripple whispers that ancient stars slowly settled into entirely new homes. Some astronomers affectionately describe this work as a kind of galactic archaeology. Not archaeology with shovels and buried cities, but archaeology written in starlight. Instead of uncovering broken pottery beneath the ground, they patiently read glowing patterns spread across the sky. Each delicate structure becomes another page in the galaxy's autobiography. Perhaps the most wonderful part of this story is that these memories remain for extraordinary lengths of time. Long after the encounter itself has ended, long after newborn stars have grown older, long after the original spiral shapes have quietly faded, the graceful rivers of stars continue drifting through space. The bridges slowly dissolve. The ripples gradually soften. Yet traces of the meeting remain, waiting patiently for anyone curious enough to look. It is a comforting thought. The universe does not erase its past. It gently carries it forward, not as a burden, not as a scar to hide, but as quiet evidence that every transformation becomes part of the next chapter. As you drift through these ancient rivers of light, another realization begins to emerge. If distant galaxies preserve memories like these, if every graceful ribbon tells the story of an encounter long ago, then perhaps our own galaxy carries similar memories as well. Perhaps the Milky Way has not spent its life alone. Perhaps, hidden among its countless stars, there are gentle traces of ancient companions whose names have long been forgotten, yet whose journeys are still quietly written across the night. The ancient rivers of stars continue drifting quietly through the darkness. Some stretch across distances almost impossible to imagine. Others gently curve around the growing galaxy, like faint ribbons left behind by a slow-moving tide. Together they preserve memories of encounters that ended billions of years ago, reminding you that the universe never truly forgets. As beautiful as those memories are, your attention now begins to wander somewhere else. Not outward, inward. Very slowly, you drift back toward the center of the merging galaxies. The bright spiral arms that once stretched gracefully across the darkness begin falling behind you. The glowing ribbons become smaller. The great clouds of newborn stars remain visible in the distance, but gradually your eyes are drawn toward a place where the light becomes richer, warmer, and more concentrated. Every galaxy seems to possess a heart, not a heart that beats, not one that breathes, but a place toward which countless stars have quietly traveled for ages beyond imagination. As you approach this luminous center, the view changes almost without your noticing. The stars become more numerous. They seem to gather more closely together than those peaceful neighborhoods far out in the spiral arms. The darkness between them still remains enormous by human standards, yet compared with the quiet outskirts of the galaxy, this central region feels almost bustling. Imagine walking through a peaceful countryside. Wide fields stretch in every direction. Small cottages rest comfortably apart from one another. The air feels open. Now imagine continuing your gentle walk until you reach an old town square. The buildings stand a little closer together. The streets quietly meet. More people pass by, each following familiar paths without hurry. Nothing feels crowded. Simply, gathered. The heart of a galaxy feels rather like that. Stars continue their patient journeys, but many of those journeys now pass through this brighter neighborhood. For billions of years, they have quietly circled this central region, each responding to the same gentle pull that has guided them since the galaxy itself was young. At first, nothing seems unusual. The center is bright, beautiful, peaceful, yet astronomers slowly realize that something extraordinary must be hidden there. The clue did not come from seeing an object directly. Instead, it came from watching the stars themselves. Some stars very close to the galaxy's center move with remarkable speed. They sweep around the invisible middle much faster than anyone expected. Again, the universe offered the same quiet lesson it had taught before. When something cannot be seen, watch what it gently influences. It is much like standing beside a calm pond on a quiet afternoon. Perhaps the water is so clear that you cannot immediately see what lies beneath. Then, without warning, tiny leaves floating upon the surface begin circling a single spot. The leaves reveal the hidden current below. The stars do something remarkably similar. Their graceful paths reveal that something immensely heavy rests at the center of the galaxy. Something invisible, something extraordinarily compact, something whose gentle pull quietly guides everything nearby. Today we call these hidden objects supermassive black holes. The name may sound mysterious, perhaps even a little intimidating, but tonight, there is no need to picture an endless mouth swallowing everything around it. That image belongs more to imagination than to reality. Instead, picture an ancient tree standing silently in the middle of a vast meadow. It does not chase the birds that land upon its branches. It does not reach outward to capture the wind. It simply remains where it has always been, quiet, patient. Its presence gently shapes everything growing nearby. A supermassive black hole is surprisingly similar. Most of the time, it is remarkably quiet. It does not roam through the galaxy collecting stars. It does not wander like a hunter across the darkness. It simply rests at the galaxy's heart, while countless stars continue their peaceful journeys around it. One of the greatest misunderstandings about black holes is the idea that they constantly pull everything toward themselves. In truth, if our own sun were somehow replaced by an object of the same mass, the Earth would continue following almost exactly the same path around it. Gravity depends upon mass and distance, not upon whether an object shines. That gentle idea remains true here as well. The stars circling the galaxy's center are not being recklessly dragged inward. Most remain comfortably safe upon stable paths that have lasted for unimaginably long stretches of time. The invisible giant simply becomes part of the quiet choreography, another dancer in gravity's endless performance. As you continue drifting nearer, you notice how calm the central region truly feels. Countless stars move together like lanterns carried upon slow currents. Some complete their graceful journeys in wide loops. Others follow tighter paths closer to the hidden center. Every orbit becomes another quiet conversation with gravity. The invisible giant says nothing. The stars quietly answer. Astronomers now believe that nearly every large galaxy in the universe shelters one of these quiet giants. Some are larger than others. Some have remained peaceful for immense spans of time. Others occasionally awaken when fresh material slowly drifts toward them. But most spend much of their existence resting almost unnoticed beneath the brilliant glow of surrounding stars. It is strangely comforting. Even one of the most mysterious objects in the universe spends most of its life in silence. As the two galaxies continue merging around you, their countless stars still remain wonderfully safe. Very few will ever come close enough to the hidden giant for its pull to become overwhelming. Most continue following the same patient rhythm they have always known, yet the galaxies themselves are changing. Their great clouds of gas continue drifting inward, almost imperceptibly. Not because the black hole is reaching outward, but because gravity, working across the entire galaxy, has been quietly rearranging everything for millions of years. The central region grows just a little richer, just a little brighter, like gentle streams slowly finding their way toward a peaceful lake. You sense that this quiet giant has remained patient for an unimaginably long time. It has not hurried the galaxies. It has simply waited. And now, as fresh rivers of drifting gas gradually begin arriving from the slow galactic encounter, the silent heart of the galaxy is about to receive a new visitor. Not a star, not an entire galaxy, but something far softer, something that flows, something that glows. A slow river of gas, beginning a long journey toward the quiet center, where another gentle chapter of the universe's story is waiting to unfold. The heart of the galaxy remains wonderfully calm. Around you, countless stars continue circling the invisible giant, each one following a familiar path shaped by gravity over billions of years. Nothing about their movement feels hurried. Nothing suggests panic. Even here, close to one of the most mysterious objects in the universe, the overwhelming feeling is still one of quiet balance. The stars know their paths. Gravity knows its work. Time continues flowing as gently as ever. For a long while, you simply drift among these ancient lights, noticing how peaceful everything seems. It is easy to understand why astronomers spent so many years trying to learn what was hidden here. The center of a galaxy appears busy with stars, yet surprisingly little seems to be happening. The quiet giant simply waits, and waits, and waits. Then, almost too slowly to notice, something different begins to arrive. Not a star, not a planet, not an entire cloud all at once. Instead, long streams of gas begin drifting inward from many different directions. You have met these great clouds before. Earlier, they gathered together between the merging galaxies, patiently giving birth to new generations of stars. But not every cloud remains where it first formed. Gravity has been gently rearranging the galaxies ever since their slow encounter began. Some clouds continued becoming stellar nurseries. Others gradually found themselves following entirely different paths. Imagine rain falling high upon a broad mountain range. Some water settles into quiet lakes, some disappears into the soil, but some slowly gathers into tiny streams. Those streams become gentle creeks. The creeks join peaceful rivers. Eventually, almost without effort, everything finds its way toward the same valley below. The gas within a galaxy behaves in a surprisingly similar way. Not because it is liquid, not because it flows exactly like water, but because gravity patiently encourages scattered clouds to drift toward the same quiet destination. You watch as one thin ribbon of glowing gas slowly curves inward. It twists gently around the hidden center, almost like silk floating through still air. Then another ribbon appears. Then another. Over immense stretches of time, these quiet rivers begin circling the invisible giant. They do not fall straight inward. Instead, they slowly spiral, round and round, closer and closer. The movement reminds you of autumn leaves resting upon the surface of a calm pond. The leaves do not immediately sink to the middle. Instead, they drift in wide circles, gradually finding slower, smaller paths until they finally gather near the quiet center. The glowing gas follows much the same graceful rhythm. As more material slowly joins these rivers, something beautiful begins to appear. The gas itself starts shining, not because the black hole suddenly becomes bright. The giant at the center remains invisible. Instead, the gas changes. As it slowly circles inward, countless tiny particles gently brush against one another. Each encounter is incredibly small, almost insignificant on its own. But over millions of years, and across unimaginable distances, those countless gentle encounters slowly create warmth. The once cool gas begins glowing. A broad ring of light gradually forms around the unseen center. Astronomers often describe this glowing structure as an accretion disk. The name is useful for science. Tonight, perhaps another image feels gentler. Imagine a slowly spinning river of glowing light, not rushing, not roaring, simply circling, patiently, layer after layer. Its motion is almost hypnotic. The nearer the gas drifts toward the center, the brighter the river becomes. The outer regions glow softly, like the first colors of sunrise spreading across a quiet horizon. Closer in, the light grows warmer, brighter. Yet even this increasing brilliance never feels violent from your peaceful place nearby. It feels purposeful, as though gravity has been composing this slow dance for billions of years. One quiet circle leading naturally into the next. From far across the universe, astronomers sometimes notice galaxies whose centers shine far more brightly than the countless stars surrounding them. For many years, these brilliant hearts puzzled observers. How could one small region outshine an entire galaxy? Today, scientists understand that such extraordinary light often comes not from the hidden giant itself, but from these glowing rivers of gas, slowly circling before their long journey finally ends. In a sense, the black hole remains almost perfectly silent. The glowing river tells the story instead. It is rather like an old lighthouse standing on a quiet shoreline. The stone tower itself creates no light. Its lamp shines because it has been carefully tended. The tower quietly remains. The light comes from what surrounds it. The galaxy's hidden giant is much the same. Most of the time it rests peacefully. Only when fresh rivers of gas gradually arrive does its neighborhood become especially luminous. Perhaps the most surprising part of this story is what does not happen. Many people imagine black holes wandering through galaxies, swallowing stars one after another, like a traveler gathering stones along a path. The real universe is far quieter. Most stars never come close enough to fall inward. They continue circling peacefully, often for billions of years. The giant does not chase them. It does not reach outward. Instead, it patiently waits while gravity slowly rearranges the galaxy around it. Gas, however, behaves differently. Unlike stars, which are compact and mostly travel independently, clouds of gas spread across enormous regions of space. They gently brush against one another. They lose a little of their motion. They become easier for gravity to guide inward. Little by little, the rivers continue flowing. It is a story not of pursuit, but of invitation. Gravity never demands. It simply continues encouraging the gas to drift toward quieter and quieter circles. As you remain beside this glowing river, you begin to notice that its light gently reflects across the nearby stars. Ancient suns pass silently through its glow. Young blue stars shimmer softly in the distance. The entire center of the galaxy seems to breathe with a calm radiance that was not present before the two galaxies began their slow encounter. The collision has not awakened chaos. It has awakened light. And somewhere beyond the glowing river, hidden beneath layers of warmth and ancient starlight, the quiet giant continues resting, almost unnoticed, waiting with extraordinary patience for another visitor that has already begun its journey. Far away, in the heart of the second galaxy, another invisible giant has been waiting just as long. Neither can see the other, neither needs to hurry, but gravity has already begun introducing them, one gentle orbit at a time. The glowing rivers of gas continue their patient journey toward the quiet hearts of both galaxies. Around each invisible giant, ancient stars still move with remarkable calm, following paths that have remained stable for ages beyond imagination. The galaxies themselves continue changing, their spiral arms stretching, their newborn stars filling quiet clouds with fresh light, their long rivers of stars preserving memories of everything that has already passed. Nothing feels hurried. Nothing feels unfinished. Every part of the story seems to unfold with extraordinary patience. And yet, hidden beneath all of this graceful movement, another journey has quietly begun. You may remember that each of these galaxies carries its own unseen giant deep within its luminous heart. For billions of years, each has rested peacefully, surrounded by generations of stars that have quietly circled through the darkness. Neither giant has wandered across its galaxy. Neither has searched for the other. Gravity has done all the traveling. As the galaxies slowly become one, their bright centers also begin drifting closer together. At first, the distance between the two invisible giants remains immense. Even though the galaxies themselves now overlap, their hidden hearts are still separated by stretches of space so vast that many millions of years pass with little visible change. You drift between them. The first giant rests behind you. The second waits ahead. Both remain silent. Both continue their patient conversation with the countless stars surrounding them. If someone visited for only a single lifetime, they might conclude that nothing was happening at all. But you have already learned one of the universe's gentlest lessons. Stillness often hides motion. The slowest journeys are sometimes the greatest ones. As time quietly unfolds, the stars surrounding each giant begin playing an unexpected role. Every star carries a tiny amount of energy as it follows its long orbit. Whenever countless stars pass near one of the hidden giants, they gently exchange a little of that energy through gravity's quiet influence. No collisions occur. No sudden impacts. Just countless delicate conversations repeated over and over again. Each individual encounter is almost unimaginably small. Together, over millions upon millions of years, they quietly slow the motion of both invisible giants. It is rather like watching two travelers crossing a peaceful field covered with deep snow. Neither traveler suddenly stops. Instead, every gentle step presses softly into the snow beneath them. Little by little, their pace becomes slower. Not because anyone has forced them to stop, simply because every small step quietly changes the next. Gravity works with the same remarkable patience. The countless stars surrounding the giants gently help carry away a little of their motion. Bit by bit, the two unseen travelers drift closer together. Eventually, the distance becomes small enough that the two giants begin circling one another. Not quickly, not dramatically, gracefully. Imagine two old oak trees reflected upon the surface of a perfectly still lake. As the evening breeze quietly changes, the reflections seem to drift into a slow dance around one another. Neither reflection rushes, neither disappears. Their movements feel almost timeless. The invisible giants begin a similar dance. Round and round they travel, each quietly responding to the other's presence. For an unimaginably long time, this peaceful orbit continues. The galaxies surrounding them have already changed enormously. Many newborn stars have grown older. Great rivers of starlight continue drifting across the darkness. The original spiral shapes have softened into something entirely new. Yet deep within the heart of the merged galaxy, the two quiet giants continue circling one another with extraordinary patience. Then another gentle influence begins to appear. You cannot see it directly. You cannot hear it. Yet once again, the universe quietly reveals itself through its effects. As the two giants circle together, they create tiny ripples that spread outward through space itself. Tonight, it may help to imagine a perfectly still lake at sunrise. The water is smooth beyond description. A single leaf settles gently upon the surface. Almost immediately, delicate rings begin spreading outward. The leaf remains near the center. The ripples quietly travel far beyond it. The universe behaves in a surprisingly similar way. Only instead of ripples traveling across water, these gentle waves spread through space itself. They are extraordinarily faint. By the time they cross the immense distances between galaxies, they have become almost unimaginably subtle. And yet they continue traveling, patiently, across millions, then billions of years. Long after the two invisible giants have completed their slow embrace, these quiet ripples continue their endless journey across the universe. Eventually, after traveling farther than almost any human mind can truly imagine, a few of those ripples reach one very small planet, orbiting an ordinary yellow star inside an unremarkable spiral galaxy. Earth. By the time they arrive, the galaxies that created them have changed beyond recognition. The stars that witnessed their beginning may no longer exist. Entire civilizations have risen and vanished on our own world. Still, the ripples continue. They arrive carrying an ancient memory. Not a picture, not a message, simply the faintest whisper that two enormous objects once completed one of the slowest dances in the universe. For many centuries, humanity never realized those whispers were passing through our world. They were simply too delicate, too quiet. But curiosity has always been one of our gentlest qualities. Little by little, scientists learned how to build instruments of astonishing sensitivity. Not machines designed to shout across the universe, machines designed to listen. They became quiet enough to notice these ancient ripples as they gently passed through Earth. One observatory, known as LIGO, became the first to detect such whispers from merging black holes. In the years ahead, another observatory, called LISA, is expected to listen from space itself, where the silence is even deeper and the universe's quiet conversations may be heard with greater clarity. There is something profoundly comforting about this. The universe does not hide its stories forever. It simply tells them softly, and when we learn to listen patiently enough, Even events that happened billions of years ago can still be heard. As you continue drifting above the newly merged galaxy, the two invisible giants have finally become one. Their long dance has ended without celebration, without noise, without triumph, only with another quiet transformation. The galaxy itself seems almost unchanged from a distance. Its stars continue shining. Its rivers of light continue drifting. Its newborn generations continue growing. The universe simply breathes onward, carrying another ancient memory within its endless silence. The gentle ripples that spread across the universe continue their endless journey. Long after they have left the newly united giant behind, the galaxy itself remains, quietly changing in ways that no ripple can fully describe. The great encounter that has unfolded over billions of years is drawing toward a peaceful conclusion. Not an ending, simply another beginning. You drift farther away once again, allowing the entire galaxy to fill your view. At first, traces of its former shape are still easy to recognize. Faint spiral arms continue reaching outward, though they no longer possess the graceful symmetry they once carried. Long rivers of stars still wander into the darkness, preserving memories of the slow encounter. Bright nurseries continue glowing here and there, where young stars recently awakened inside quiet clouds of gas. Everything feels familiar, yet everything has changed. If you remained here for only a few million years, you might think very little was happening. But the universe is patient enough to wait much longer than that. Over hundreds of millions of years, and then billions more, gravity continues doing what it has always done. Not forcing, not rushing, simply guiding. Little by little, the long spiral arms begin losing their familiar shape. The elegant patterns that once wrapped around the galaxy's bright center slowly become softer, less distinct. The stars themselves are still there. Almost none have disappeared. Instead, they gradually begin following new paths, each one gently influenced by the countless quiet conversations gravity has carried out over unimaginable stretches of time. Imagine watching a great whirlpool in a peaceful river. At first, the water circles with a clear and graceful pattern. Every curve is easy to see. Then the current slowly weakens. The swirling motion becomes gentler. The circles become wider. Eventually, the water no longer forms a whirlpool at all. It simply becomes part of a calm, open lake. The water has not vanished. It has settled. The galaxy experiences something remarkably similar. Its spiral shape slowly softens until, from a great distance, it begins looking less like a pinwheel of light and more like a smooth, rounded lantern glowing quietly in the darkness. Astronomers call these galaxies elliptical galaxies. The name describes their shape. Tonight, perhaps it is enough simply to think of them as peaceful, rounded homes where most stars quietly grow older together. The transformation has taken billions of years. There has been no single moment when the spiral suddenly disappeared, no final dramatic event. Only an endless collection of tiny changes, each almost impossible to notice on its own. Together, they quietly reshaped an entire galaxy. You continue floating nearby, watching countless stars follow their new journeys. Long ago, many of them traveled together along beautiful spiral arms. Now their paths are more varied. Some circle gently one way, others another. The overall rhythm becomes softer, more like birds wandering peacefully across an open sky than dancers following carefully arranged steps. The galaxy has not become disordered. It has become relaxed. Its movements feel less choreographed and more natural, as though every star has found its own comfortable place within the larger whole. The quiet rivers of gas that once gathered so eagerly during the merger have changed as well. Many were transformed into generations of newborn stars. Others slowly drifted toward the galaxy's center. Little by little, fewer great clouds remain. The galaxy still contains gas. It still contains dust. But the immense reservoirs that once gave birth to countless new stars have become less abundant. As a result, the pace of creation gently slows. New stars are still born from time to time. The universe never completely forgets how to create. Yet the great springtime you witnessed earlier has gradually given way to a quieter season. If the merger once resembled a magnificent sunrise, filled with fresh light appearing everywhere at once, the galaxy now feels more like a peaceful autumn afternoon. The trees still stand. The forest remains alive. Golden leaves drift gently through still air. Nothing is ending. Everything is simply becoming calmer, older, wiser. There is a special beauty in this quieter stage. The youngest blue stars that once shone so brilliantly continue growing older. Some settle into long, peaceful lives. Others quietly prepare to pass their gifts to future generations many millions of years from now. Meanwhile, countless older stars continue glowing with warm golden light, filling the galaxy with a gentle radiance that feels steady and reassuring. The galaxy no longer dazzles through constant change. Instead, it offers the quiet comfort of stability. Perhaps that is why these rounded galaxies possess such a different kind of beauty. They do not celebrate beginnings. They celebrate endurance. They remind you that peace can also be the result of transformation. Nothing important has been erased. The ancient stars remain. The younger generations continue shining. The quiet giant still rests at the center, surrounded by its patient rivers of light. The memories of old collisions still drift outward, in faint streams almost too delicate to see. Every chapter remains present, only the rhythm has changed. As you slowly circle this peaceful galaxy, another comforting thought begins to emerge. If someone arrived here billions of years from now, they might never guess that this calm, rounded home was once two magnificent spiral galaxies dancing through space. Its appearance would reveal very little. Its history would seem almost invisible. And yet, the universe has a remarkable memory. Even when the great spiral arms have faded, even when the newborn stars have grown old, even when the galaxy itself appears perfectly calm, small traces of its past continue shining across the darkness. Quiet rivers of stars, delicate shells of ancient light, almost invisible pathways stretching far beyond the rounded glow. Like old letters carefully tucked away inside a family home, these gentle structures remain, waiting for anyone patient enough to read them. The galaxy has become peaceful, but it has never forgotten. The rounded galaxy now drifts peacefully through the darkness. Its great spiral arms have long since softened into a smooth, gentle glow. The bright season of countless newborn stars has become quieter, replaced by the steady light of older generations. At first glance, everything seems perfectly calm, as though the galaxy has always looked this way. If you arrived here today without knowing its story, you might never imagine that this peaceful home was once two separate galaxies slowly weaving themselves together across billions of years. The universe, however, is wonderfully patient. It rarely erases its history. Instead, it leaves behind quiet reminders. Some are so delicate that they remain unnoticed for generations. Others stretch across distances so immense that they become visible only when astronomers look with extraordinary care. You drift a little farther away from the galaxy, allowing your eyes to adjust to the faintest light surrounding it. The bright center remains easy to see. The rounded shape glows softly against the darkness. But beyond that familiar glow, almost hidden within the night, something else begins to appear. A faint ribbon of stars, then another. Long, graceful streams extend far beyond the visible galaxy, reaching into space like silver threads floating upon still water. They are so delicate that they almost disappear, yet once your eyes become accustomed to the darkness, you realize they have been there all along. It is rather like walking through a quiet meadow before sunrise. At first, everything seems covered in shadow. Then, little by little, as the light gently grows, you begin noticing tiny trails winding through the grass. Someone has passed this way before. The paths remain long after the travelers have gone. The galaxy offers the same quiet clues. Those rivers of stars are not accidents, they are memories. Each one quietly tells part of a story that unfolded over millions or even billions of years. Some stars were gently pulled outward during an ancient encounter. Others once belonged to a much smaller neighboring galaxy, before slowly becoming part of this larger home. Nothing was hurried, nothing was forgotten. The memories simply remained written across the sky. Astronomers have learned to read these gentle patterns with remarkable patience. Not because the universe provides clear instructions. It does not. Instead, they collect countless observations, each one revealing another tiny piece of a much larger picture. It is a little like reading an old handwritten letter that has faded with time. Some words remain perfectly clear. Others have almost disappeared. No single sentence tells the whole story. But gradually, with enough patience, the meaning begins to return. The universe rewards that same kind of careful attention. Every faint stream, every gentle curve, every quiet shell of ancient starlight becomes another sentence in the long autobiography of a galaxy. Some people have affectionately described this work as a kind of galactic archaeology. It is a beautiful idea, not archaeology beneath the ground, not forgotten cities hidden beneath layers of earth, but archaeology written with light instead of stone. Imagine standing in fresh snow after a peaceful winter night. The forest is silent, no animals can be seen, and yet delicate footprints stretch between the trees. From those quiet tracks, you begin imagining what happened while you were asleep. Perhaps a fox wandered beneath the moonlight. Perhaps a deer paused beside the stream. The animals are gone. Their story remains. Astronomers read galaxies in much the same way. Their footprints are made of stars. One of the most beautiful examples lies much closer to home than you might expect. For a long time, people imagined that our own Milky Way had always lived much as it does today. A magnificent spiral galaxy, quietly turning through space. Beautiful, stable, complete. But as telescopes improved and new observations accumulated, another story slowly emerged. Our galaxy too carries ancient memories. Long rivers of stars stretch across its outer regions. Some are almost impossibly faint. Others gently wrap around the Milky Way, like ribbons drifting through the night. They do not belong there by accident. Many of them are the quiet remains of much smaller neighboring galaxies that slowly wandered too close over immense stretches of time. Rather than disappearing completely, those smaller galaxies gradually shared their stars with the Milky Way. Some stars settled into new orbits. Others continued drifting together in long, graceful streams. Even today, those ancient travelers still carry the memory of where they once belonged. One particularly well-known example comes from a small neighboring galaxy that astronomers call the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. For billions of years, It has slowly circled the Milky Way, gradually sharing more and more of its stars with our own galaxy. Its original home has become increasingly difficult to recognize, yet its ancient pathways still stretch across the sky, quietly reminding us that the Milky Way has never truly lived alone. More recently, another remarkable space observatory, known simply as Gaia, has helped astronomers measure the positions and motions of more stars than ever before. Instead of looking only at where stars are today, Gaia has allowed scientists to notice how they move together. Slowly, hidden families of stars began revealing themselves. Ancient companions, forgotten travelers, quiet memories still drifting through our galaxy after billions of years. It is astonishing to realize that the Milky Way surrounding our own solar system is not merely a collection of stars, it is also a collection of memories. Every stream of ancient stars, every unusual orbit, every faint ribbon reaching across the darkness tells part of a story that began long before the Earth existed. As you quietly drift above this familiar galaxy, another comforting thought begins to settle within you. Memory, in the universe, is rarely loud. It does not announce itself. It waits, patiently, sometimes for billions of years, until someone becomes curious enough to notice. Perhaps that is one of the gentlest lessons hidden among the stars. The past is never entirely lost. It simply becomes quieter, waiting to be read by those willing to look with patience, kindness, and wonder. And once those quiet memories have been discovered, another question naturally begins to appear. If astronomers can gently read the history of galaxies from the stars themselves, what might we learn by quietly visiting some of the most beautiful galactic encounters that still shine across the universe today? The memories of our own galaxy slowly fade into the distance. The long rivers of forgotten stars continue drifting through the Milky Way, carrying stories that began before our sun had even formed. For a little while, you simply remain with that comforting thought, that every galaxy, no matter how peaceful it appears today, carries quiet traces of countless yesterdays. Then, almost without noticing, your journey carries you farther across the universe once again. There is no hurry, no destination waiting impatiently ahead, only another peaceful place to visit. The first galaxy slowly comes into view. Even from a great distance, it looks unlike the calm, rounded home you left behind. Two bright spirals appear to be reaching toward one another, their graceful arms stretched into long ribbons of light that sweep across the darkness like delicate feathers drifting through still air. Astronomers know this pair as the Antennae galaxies. The name comes from those long, elegant streams of stars extending far beyond the galaxies themselves. From Earth, they appear almost frozen in time. But you already know their secret. Nothing here is still. Everything is simply moving far too slowly for human eyes to notice. You drift quietly between them. The two galaxies have not yet finished becoming one. Their centers remain separate. Young stars continue appearing within glowing clouds of gas. Long rivers of stars flow outward into the darkness, preserving every gentle movement gravity has made. It feels less like watching destruction, and more like watching two ancient trees slowly growing together over centuries, their branches gradually becoming impossible to separate. If someone asked what the Antennae galaxies teach us, perhaps the gentlest answer would be this: galaxy collisions create beauty, not despite gravity. Because of it, you quietly continue your journey. Far away, another familiar spiral appears. At first glance, it seems almost untouched. Its elegant arms still wrap gracefully around a bright golden center. Nearby, however, a smaller companion drifts close beside it, connected by delicate streams of stars that shimmer almost too softly to notice. This is the Whirlpool Galaxy. It reminds you that not every galactic encounter involves two equal partners. Sometimes one galaxy quietly influences another. A gentle pull, a slow conversation, a patient exchange that unfolds over hundreds of millions of years. The larger spiral remains beautiful. The smaller companion quietly changes its shape. Both continue influencing one another, like two dancers of different heights finding a rhythm that belongs to neither one alone. Gravity, once again, acts without urgency. It simply continues its quiet work. As you watch, fresh stars continue appearing where great clouds of gas have slowly gathered. Long before the galaxies completely merge, they are already changing each other's future. The lesson feels wonderfully familiar now. Transformation begins long before it becomes visible. You drift onward once more. Ahead, another galaxy slowly emerges from the darkness. Unlike the graceful spirals you have visited before, this one appears almost perfectly round. A brilliant ring of young stars surrounds a quieter center, giving the galaxy the appearance of a luminous wheel resting upon the night. Astronomers call it the Cartwheel Galaxy. Its shape seems almost impossible. How could a galaxy become a great circle of light? The answer, once again, lies in patience. Long ago, a smaller galaxy passed gently through the heart of a larger one. Not as a bullet tearing through space, more like a pebble quietly touching the surface of a still pond. You may remember the ripples spreading across the water. Here, gravity created something remarkably similar. A great wave slowly moved outward through the galaxy. As it traveled, clouds of gas gently gathered together, awakening new stars along its expanding path. Over immense stretches of time, that moving wave became the brilliant ring you now see. The galaxy itself became a memory of one quiet passage. It is astonishing how many different forms beauty can take when gravity is allowed enough time. You pause for a while, letting these three galaxies drift gently through your thoughts. The Antennae, with their flowing rivers of stars. The Whirlpool, quietly changing beside its companion. The Cartwheel, carrying the memory of a long-ago encounter within its glowing ring. Each looks different. Each tells a different story. Yet all of them speak the same quiet language. Patience, transformation, light. There is something else these distant galaxies quietly offer. They remind us that human lives are wonderfully short, not in a sad way, simply in comparison with the immense rhythms of the universe. No astronomer could spend billions of years watching one galaxy slowly become another. The universe moves far too patiently for that. And yet curiosity has always found gentle ways of listening. Since we cannot wait billions of years, we have learned to build careful models instead. Imagine planting a tiny seed inside a peaceful garden. Then imagine being able to watch an entire forest grow, season after season, in only a few quiet moments. You would not be changing the forest. You would simply be watching time unfold more quickly. Astronomers do something remarkably similar, not with trees, with galaxies. Inside powerful computers, they create careful models of the universe, using everything they have patiently learned from observations. Gravity quietly guides countless virtual galaxies. Clouds of gas gather, stars awaken, galaxies drift together, others slowly separate. Entire cosmic histories unfold before their eyes. Some of these remarkable projects carry names such as Illustris and the Millennium Simulation. The names themselves are less important than the gentle idea behind them. They are quiet time machines built from mathematics, allowing scientists to witness journeys too slow for any single lifetime. These simulations do not replace real telescopes. Instead, they become thoughtful companions. Astronomers compare what the computer predicts with what the universe actually reveals. When both stories begin to resemble one another, confidence quietly grows. Little by little, the hidden rhythm of galaxy evolution becomes easier to understand. You find something deeply comforting in that partnership. The universe speaks through distant light. Human curiosity listens. Between them grows understanding. Not perfect understanding. Never complete, but always becoming a little clearer with patience. As your journey slowly turns back toward home, the beautiful galaxies you have visited begin fading gently into the darkness behind you. They continue their dances without needing an audience. They continue creating new stars, preserving old memories, and quietly reshaping themselves beneath gravity's endless care. Far ahead, one familiar spiral waits beneath the stars, the Milky Way, and somewhere beyond it, another great galaxy is already making its own slow approach, carrying the promise that everything you have witnessed tonight is not only part of the distant universe, it is also part of our own future. Your journey now carries you home. Not home to Earth just yet. Home to the galaxy that has quietly sheltered every human story ever told. Far ahead, the familiar spiral of the Milky Way slowly turns beneath you. Its broad arms glow softly against the darkness, wrapped in quiet clouds of dust and scattered with generations of stars that have been drifting together for billions of years. For a moment, simply enjoy the sight. This galaxy has always seemed permanent, ancient, steady, as though it has always looked exactly this way. Yet you already know one of the universe's gentlest secrets. Nothing remains unchanged forever. Even the calmest galaxies continue their patient journeys. If you lift your eyes beyond the Milky Way, toward a faint patch of light resting quietly in the distance, you may notice another spiral galaxy. It is not especially bright. From Earth, it appears only as a soft blur beneath a dark sky, easily overlooked unless the night is especially clear. That quiet companion is the Andromeda Galaxy. For thousands of years, people looked toward it without realizing exactly what it was. Some imagined it to be a small cloud. Others thought it was a faint mist suspended among the stars. Today we understand that this gentle glow is another vast galaxy, carrying hundreds of billions of stars of its own. It has its own quiet rivers of light, its own ancient memories, its own hidden giant, resting peacefully at its center. And although it seems perfectly still tonight, appearances can be wonderfully deceptive. Very slowly, almost impossibly slowly, the Andromeda Galaxy is already moving toward us. Not because it has chosen to, not because our galaxy is chasing it. Gravity has simply been guiding both galaxies along their patient paths for billions of years. Imagine standing on opposite shores of an enormous lake at sunrise. The water is almost perfectly calm. Two small wooden boats drift quietly upon its surface. At first they seem motionless. Then, almost too slowly to notice, gentle currents begin carrying them toward the middle of the lake. Neither boat rows, neither struggles. The water quietly brings them together. The Milky Way and Andromeda have been following a similar journey for longer than our sun has existed. The meeting, however, is still unimaginably far away. It is expected to begin roughly 4 to 5 billion years from now. That number is so immense that it almost loses its meaning. Between now and then, mountains will continue rising and wearing away. Continents will slowly reshape themselves. The sun itself will continue changing as it grows older. Entire chapters of our planet's history still remain unwritten. The galaxies, meanwhile, continue approaching with extraordinary patience. When they finally begin meeting, the event will look remarkably familiar. You have already witnessed this story tonight. The invisible oceans surrounding both galaxies will quietly greet one another first. Gravity will begin gently reshaping the paths of countless stars. Long rivers of starlight will gradually stretch into the darkness. Great clouds of gas will gather. Fresh generations of stars may awaken. Everything unfolds with the same remarkable calm that has guided every other galactic encounter. Perhaps the most comforting question people often ask is a very personal one. What will happen to the Sun? The answer, surprisingly, is reassuring. Our Sun is extraordinarily unlikely to collide directly with another star. The immense distances separating stars remain just as vast as they are today. There is simply too much empty space. Instead, the Sun will most likely continue its quiet journey, following a new path through the gradually changing galaxy. It may find itself orbiting farther from the center than it does now, or perhaps somewhat closer. Astronomers cannot yet know every detail, but the most likely future is not one of violent impact. It is one of gentle relocation. Imagine living in a peaceful village beside a quiet river. One day, over many generations, the river slowly changes its course. Your home is not destroyed. Instead, the landscape around it gradually becomes different. The familiar path to the water gently shifts. New trees grow. Old paths disappear beneath soft grass. The village remains. Its surroundings quietly change. The solar system may experience something remarkably similar. The stars surrounding it could slowly become different. The night sky would gradually change as new constellations quietly emerge, while familiar ones slowly fade away. The Milky Way itself may no longer resemble the graceful spiral we know today. Instead, over immense stretches of time, it may slowly become a calmer, more rounded galaxy, sharing one peaceful home with the stars that once belonged to Andromeda. There is something deeply comforting about that image. Our galaxy does not face destruction, it faces transformation. The same quiet transformation that countless galaxies have already experienced throughout the universe. The same patient story you have spent this evening drifting through. Even the hidden giants resting at the centers of both galaxies will continue their own extraordinarily slow journey toward one another. The rivers of gas will once again begin flowing inward. The stars will continue circling safely through vast oceans of space. Gravity will quietly compose another dance, lasting billions of years. Nothing about it needs to happen quickly. Nothing about it needs to inspire fear. Perhaps that is the greatest surprise of all. The largest event our galaxy will ever experience is also one of its slowest. There will be no single moment when someone could point to the sky and say, "Now it begins." The story begins long before anyone notices. It unfolds through countless generations, each small change quietly encouraging the next. As you continue drifting above the Milky Way, Andromeda remains a faint, peaceful glow beyond the darkness. It seems almost motionless, almost impossibly distant, and yet, because you now understand gravity's endless patience, you know something your eyes alone could never reveal. The journey has already begun. It has been unfolding for billions of years, and somewhere in the quiet future, beneath a very different sky, these two ancient galaxies will greet one another, just as gently as every great galaxy has done before. The Andromeda Galaxy slowly fades into the distance once again. Its soft glow remains visible for a little while, like a lantern resting beyond the far edge of a quiet lake, before it gently disappears into the wider darkness. Behind you, the Milky Way continues its patient turning, carrying our solar system along a journey that began billions of years before the first human ever looked toward the stars. For a moment, everything feels wonderfully familiar. You have traveled through spiral galaxies, filled with newborn stars. You have watched quiet rivers of starlight, stretching across the darkness. You have drifted beside invisible giants, resting peacefully within ancient galactic hearts. You have seen galaxies become one another, without haste, without violence, and without losing the quiet beauty that makes them who they are. Now, one final question begins to rise, almost as softly as the first stars appearing after sunset. Why has the universe spent so much time allowing galaxies to meet at all? Why not leave every galaxy alone? The answer, as with so many things in the universe, begins with patience. Imagine standing beside a wide river shortly after a gentle rain. Tiny streams appear among the hills. At first, each one flows quietly by itself. Small, narrow, easy to overlook. As they continue their journey, two streams meet. Neither disappears. Together, they become something larger. Farther downstream, another river joins them. The water continues gathering, becoming broader and calmer with every peaceful meeting. Eventually, countless small streams have become one great river. The universe has followed a remarkably similar rhythm, not with water, with galaxies. Long ago, when the universe itself was much younger, the galaxies scattered across space were often much smaller than those we see today. Many were quiet collections of only a few million or a few billion stars, modest islands of light drifting through an expanding cosmos. They were beautiful, but they were only the beginning. Gravity quietly encouraged neighboring galaxies to drift together. Small galaxies gently became larger ones. Larger galaxies welcomed smaller companions. Generation after generation, the universe slowly built grander structures without ever rushing the process. If you could watch this extraordinary history unfold from far above, you would notice something comforting. The universe does not seem interested in building everything at once. It prefers to build gradually, almost lovingly, one quiet step leading naturally to another. A small galaxy becomes part of a larger one. Several larger galaxies become a peaceful family. Many families quietly gather into even greater communities. These communities of galaxies stretch across unimaginable distances, connected by gravity's invisible pathways that you first encountered near the beginning of your journey. Nothing has changed about gravity. It has simply continued doing the same quiet work for billions of years. Perhaps that is why the universe feels so consistent. Its greatest architect has never hurried. As you drift farther away once more, the galaxies become smaller. Entire groups now fit comfortably within your view. Some contain only a handful of neighboring galaxies, gently circling one another. Others hold hundreds. Still others gather thousands of galaxies into enormous communities that quietly illuminate the darkness, like distant cities seen from high above on a peaceful night. The comparison is not perfect. Galaxies are separated by distances far greater than any cities on Earth. Yet there is something comforting about imagining them as neighborhoods, towns, and great communities, each quietly belonging to something larger than itself. From even farther away, those communities begin connecting into the immense structure you visited much earlier in your journey. The great cosmic web. Invisible pathways stretching across the observable universe. Countless galaxies resting like tiny lanterns along gentle rivers that gravity has patiently shaped since nearly the beginning of time. You may notice that the story has quietly come full circle. the invisible ocean, the quiet pull, the rivers of stars, the rivers of galaxies. Every image returns, every idea gently reconnects. Nothing has truly been left behind. Yet another quiet change has also been unfolding all this time. The universe itself continues expanding. The space between the most distant galaxies slowly grows larger. Imagine standing in a peaceful valley filled with floating lanterns. A soft breeze gradually carries the lanterns away from one another. Those that begin close together remain neighbors for a long while. Those already far apart drift even farther into the distance. The universe behaves in much the same gentle way. Nearby galaxies, already held together by gravity, continue sharing their long histories. Distant galaxies slowly become more distant still. Over unimaginable stretches of time, this gradual expansion will quietly reshape the future of the cosmos. Many galaxies that can still be seen today will one day drift so far away that their light will never reach future observers. The night sky of an unimaginably distant future may become much quieter than the one we know now, not because galaxies have disappeared, simply because they have wandered beyond the visible horizon of one another's journeys. There is something unexpectedly peaceful about that thought. The universe is not rushing toward loneliness. It is simply continuing its endless unfolding. Some galaxies remain lifelong neighbors. Others gently part ways after sharing only a brief chapter of cosmic history. Both journeys are equally natural. Both belong to the same quiet story. And even as the universe slowly expands, gravity continues creating moments of togetherness, wherever neighboring galaxies remain close enough to hear its silent invitation. Small galaxies continue becoming larger homes. Stars continue being born. Old stars continue passing their quiet gifts to future generations. Black holes continue resting patiently at galactic hearts. Nothing about the great rhythm has ended. It simply continues, one gentle transformation after another. Perhaps that is one of the deepest comforts hidden within the night sky. The universe is never finished. It is never trying to reach a final destination. It is simply growing, learning new shapes, building larger homes from smaller ones, remembering every quiet journey that helped create the next. As you float above this immense cosmic landscape, the countless galaxies no longer seem like isolated islands scattered through empty space. Instead, they resemble a vast family whose members have spent billions of years quietly shaping one another's futures. Every gentle meeting, every peaceful separation, every patient transformation has helped create the universe you have come to know tonight. And somewhere within that endless family of light, one very small planet continues circling one ordinary star, carrying listeners who have quietly followed this journey through galaxies, gravity, memory, and time, perhaps beginning to realize that they too have always belonged to this ancient and ever-changing universe. You have traveled a very long way, not in distance alone, although the journey has carried you across galaxies, through invisible oceans of gravity, beside quiet giants hidden within ancient starlight, and into futures that will not arrive for billions of years. You have also traveled through time. You have watched galaxies approach one another with extraordinary patience. You have watched clouds quietly gather, new stars awaken, old stars gently return their gifts, rivers of starlight preserve forgotten memories, invisible giants complete dances lasting longer than entire chapters of the universe's history. And now, almost without realizing it, you find yourself exactly where every peaceful journey hopes to arrive, not at an ending, but at understanding. Far below you, the universe stretches in every direction. countless galaxies continue turning through the darkness. Some are still young. Some are quietly growing older. Some have only just begun their gentle conversations with neighboring galaxies. Others have already completed dances that lasted billions of years. No two stories are exactly alike, yet every one of them follows the same quiet rhythm. Gravity never rushes. Time never hurries. Change arrives gently. Perhaps, when this journey first began, the words galaxy collision called to mind something frightening. It is understandable. On Earth, collisions often mean broken things, sudden endings, violent moments that leave little unchanged. The universe tells a softer story. Tonight, you have watched entire galaxies pass through one another, while almost every star remained peacefully safe. You have seen great clouds of gas become gardens where fresh light quietly awakened. You have watched hidden giants wait with unimaginable patience before finally greeting one another. You have seen galaxies grow calmer rather than disappear. Again and again, the universe has gently revealed the same quiet truth. Its greatest transformations are rarely acts of destruction. More often, they are acts of becoming. An old spiral galaxy becomes a peaceful, rounded home. Ancient stars quietly prepare the material for future generations. Small galaxies become larger ones. Separate histories slowly become shared memories. Nothing important is hurried away. Everything simply continues. You may remember the invisible ocean you first discovered near the beginning of our journey. At the time, it seemed mysterious. Something unseen, quietly holding galaxies together. As the story unfolded, that invisible presence became more familiar. It gently guided galaxies toward one another. It quietly reshaped rivers of stars. It patiently carried glowing clouds toward hidden galactic hearts. It never demanded attention. It simply continued doing its quiet work. Gravity has been the silent companion of every chapter you have witnessed tonight. It has spoken only through motion, only through patience, only through time. You may also remember the long rivers of stars stretching across the darkness. At first they appeared simply beautiful. Later they became memories. Gentle footprints left behind by galaxies that had quietly changed one another forever. The universe remembers, not through words, not through monuments, but through light itself. Every graceful stream, every faint shell, every ancient star still carries part of the story forward. Even now, the Milky Way surrounding our own sun quietly preserves memories of neighbors it welcomed long ago. Nothing has truly vanished. The stories have simply become quieter. Then there were the stars themselves. Young blue lights awakening inside peaceful clouds, older golden stars continuing their patient journeys, great stars gently returning their gifts so that future worlds could someday exist. The universe never asked one generation of stars to last forever. Instead, each quietly prepared the way for the next. Perhaps there is comfort in that rhythm. Nothing is expected to remain unchanged. Everything is invited to become part of something larger. And then, almost as gently as every other realization tonight, another thought begins to settle into your mind. The atoms that quietly make up your body have their own long journey. The carbon that helps build every living cell. The oxygen carried with each calm breath. The iron that quietly travels through your blood. Long before they became part of you, they belonged to ancient stars. Those stars lived, shone, changed, and gently returned their gifts to the universe. Some may have existed inside galaxies that no longer resemble the galaxies they once were. Some may have witnessed slow mergers like the ones you have quietly drifted through tonight. Their light faded long ago. Their gifts continued traveling. Across clouds, across stars, across worlds, until, after countless generations of quiet transformation, they eventually became part of you. Perhaps, in that sense, you have always been traveling with the galaxies, not merely watching them, belonging among them. There is something wonderfully peaceful about that thought. The universe does not stand apart from us. We have always been woven into its story. The same patient gravity that guides galaxies also keeps your feet gently resting upon the earth. The same ancient elements created inside long-vanished stars now quietly help your heart continue beating. The same light that crossed millions of years to reach our skies reminds us that the universe has never stopped sharing its memories. You have simply spent this evening learning how to notice them. Now, as your journey slowly comes to rest, there is nothing more you need to understand tonight, nothing more to solve, nothing more to imagine. The galaxies will continue their endless dances without asking you to follow every step. Gravity will continue its patient work. New stars will quietly awaken. Old stars will gently pass their gifts forward. The universe will keep breathing in its own slow rhythm, just as it has for billions of years. And perhaps that is the quietest comfort of all. Even the largest changes in existence unfold with extraordinary gentleness. They arrive one peaceful moment after another, so slowly that they leave room for beauty to grow alongside them. So if your thoughts have already begun drifting somewhere between the stars in sleep, you may simply let them continue. There is nowhere else you need to travel tonight. The galaxies know their way. The stars know their songs. Gravity knows its endless dance. And you are safe. You are warm. You have always been part of this quiet universe. It will continue carrying its ancient stories through the darkness, softly, patiently, and without hurry, while you rest. And so, our journey drifts quietly to its end. Whether you're still listening beneath the gentle glow of your screen, or already floating somewhere between dreams and distant galaxies, thank you for traveling here tonight through invisible oceans of gravity, ancient rivers of starlight, and the quiet transformations that have shaped the universe for billions of years. If this wandering brought you even a little calm, you're always welcome to subscribe or share it with someone who could use a gentler night beneath the stars. For now, rest well. The galaxies will keep turning. The stars will keep shining. Gravity will continue its patient work, and the universe will carry on softly around you while you sleep.